This topic is personally incredibly important to me, having had the privilege to serve and lead the diversity, equity, and inclusion portfolio for one of the most progressive governors, Gavin Newsom in California. An opportunity to serve in a state that has been a role model for the entire country in the United States of America and has challenged other states by leading the way and pushing the boundaries in gender equality reform. And now I have the privilege to help bring inclusion, diversity, and equity to the forefront of our Montenegro government priorities and agenda. But to make meaningful progress, we first must start with understanding where we are, what challenges we still need to solve, and we must question how policies are designed, implemented, and assessed to address underlying inequities and systemic challenges. The research that you are doing and you're going to present today will provide a really valuable insight and start addressing some of these questions I'm underlining. In our Ministry of Public Administration, Digital Society and Media, we've set gender equality high up on our priority list. It is indeed one of our strategic imperatives of our team. I'm really proud of the fact that our ministry is a majority women organization. Women represent 65% of the team, and we are also a women-led organization. By my side are fierce leaders, Marina, Maria, and Daniela, our state secretary and acting director chiefs, and we are all women. Even though we have many women in our workforce, we still have a lot of work to do in terms of bridging the gender inequity gap. We need to empower more women at the leadership positions in public service, and we also need to do better in terms of attracting more leaders from the LGBTQI community into government. It is our obligation to contribute from all levels to raise awareness of the importance of gender equality, improving the position of women, LGBTQ community, especially due to the aftermath of pandemic period, which deepened inequities and left a devastating impact on our society as a whole. It is a time to analyze all the problems and challenges that our citizens face, see the limitations of existing solutions, and create answers that will relieve women and LGBTQ community, economically empower them, protect them from violence, and provide them with new career opportunities. But before we can address the systemic and cultural challenges we are facing, we first need to confront the elephant in the room, and that is that not everyone is getting ahead. Some people are left behind, frankly. The impact of gender inequity is yet to be fully understood, and therefore we don't have an accurate picture of the extent of the exclusion. We are only beginning to address these barriers and ask the right questions. We at the Ministry of Public Administration, Digital Society and Media believe that diversity, equity, and inclusion is vital to a successful organization, and that it is crucial for our team to reflect the diversity of the public we serve. We aim to build a diverse, equitable, and inclusive organization in order to drive a spectrum of solutions and ideas and challenge the misperceptions, and status quo when it comes to gender equality. Our aim is to increase access, remove barriers, develop skills, and empower people who might be otherwise be marginalized and excluded from the design and use of government policies, programs, and services. We also recognize that diverse workforce is not enough. When it comes to inclusion, our second big priority, we are committed to promoting an inclusive environment where all individuals feel like they can bring their full selves, their whole selves, their uniqueness is valued, and they're an integral part of the team. We are creating a space of psychological safety where it is okay to fail and where every leader is recognized by their superpowers and empowered to lead the way no matter where they are in a hierarchy. And then third, equity. It's one of the most critical systemic and cultural issues that we are striving to bring awareness to, more broadly and drive within our government. We must promote equity as a fair treatment, access, opportunity, and advancement for all people, while at the same time striving to identify and eliminate barriers that have prevented the full participation of some groups. In order to improve equity, we must increase justice and fairness within the procedures and processes within public administration, as well as in their distribution of resources. Tackling equity issues requires an understanding of the root causes of the outcome disparities within our society. This is an integral part of our ministry's mission and the mission we strive to advance for the entire government. One of the most obvious reasons to push hard for diversity, equity, and inclusion is that promoting those values means promoting understanding. and that leads to better policies, programs, and services that solve problems for those who might have otherwise been sidelined. We'd like to say that diversity, equity, and inclusion must become a part of our cultural fabric and must be baked in from the beginning of a service, program, and policy design. At our Policy Design Lab, we conduct qualitative and quantitative research and panel interviews targeting minorities and marginalized community members, including women and LGBTQ people. Their feedback and insights helps us shape better policies, programs, and platforms in a more effective way, as we know that when we design for the edges, we design for everyone. To address some of these goals head-on in a more structured manner, at the Ministry of Public Administration, Digital Society, and Media, we launched the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion that is proactively partnering with international organizations, private and civil sector, and co-designing an equity metric and thinking through all the levers we can use to bake diversity, equity, and inclusion into the DNA of our organization and public service more broadly. And so here are some of the things we are initiating and the impact we are aiming to drive through the levers of standards, practices, and tools. We are working on designing and implementing diversity, equity, and inclusion standards and training, onboarding program, as well as preparing resource guides and handbooks which will set the tone and empower public servants with principles, best practices, and tools for being a steward of DAY, meaning diversity, equity, and inclusion, and driving the mission of DAY inside and outside our government. And just to name a few opportunities for improvement that we are working on and would love to collaborate with all of you, we are delving into how might we more effectively incorporate and implement gender analysis of public policies, what indicators should we lean on to measure diversity, equity, and inclusion, how might we drive gender responsive budgeting more proactively. So those are just a few topics we're working on that we would love your input on and would love to collaborate with you on. The role of public servants is about going beyond empathy to be actual allies that transform insights into action, real action, that can rethink systems and provide better outcomes for the people we serve. After all, we aren't here to just let people know we are listening. That does very little on its own. What we as public servants are here for is to show and drive real change that can be seen and felt by our residents and measured by our skeptics. We need to shift from designing for to designing with the people we serve. We hold a huge responsibility as public servants, designers, and builders of government services to do what's right and provide equal outcomes for the most vulnerable populations of our country.